I'm Veronique.
And I'm Sylvia.
Welcome to the High Vibes and the Mind podcast,
where multicultural moms connect.
Everyone, welcome back to the show. This is Veronique and Sylvia on High Vibes and a Mic. And today we have a guest. She's an hypnotherapist and a coach. So her name is Yeliena, anxiety hypnotherapist, and the CEO of My Blooming Heart Hypnotherapy and Coaching, where she combines this and nervous system regulation methods to help ladies, entrepreneurs, find inner calm and unshakable self-trust. So today we're going to have a very deep conversation about hypnosis, and you will learn a lot, I guarantee it. Yeliena uses hypnotherapy to teach her clients to unlock their existing but underutilized strength, as well as to break free from any limiting beliefs. She coaches her clients on how to regulate their nervous system, to unwind anxiety from its very core and replace it with an optimal state of heart and mind. So let's hear it from Yeliena. Hi, Yeliena. So can you tell us about your background and what led you to become an hypnotherapist?
Definitely. I will try to keep it short, but I have to start by saying that I always wanted to be a psychotherapist, to start like a counselor since I was a teenager. And long story short, instead of doing a psych degree, I was still living in Russia then. I went and studied banking and finance for like 4 years and some. And during that time, I started going to United States, where I currently reside, for just like a summer. And one of those summers, I was in New York, and I realized that I had 1 more year of university in finance and banking in Russia, and I'm going to go and have a miserable life doing something that I hate. I have nothing against finance and banking if you love it, but I didn't know that is not exactly the same as math. I love math, but obviously it's not the same as banking. But either way, I decided to stay to New York, did bachelor's in psych eventually when I got my life in order, continued and did master's in social work, which is one of the pathways to becoming a clinical counselor. And in between those two degrees, I was dating an amazing person whose sister is and was then a professional hypnotherapist. So she was like, Lena, don't you dare go to grad school, get in depth, like come on over. I'm going to teach you how to do. She was doing certification courses. So I did one of those. I actually did a few of them, like every year. I would just go back to her because she was amazing and it was free for me. And this is how I found it. Then there's a little more to this story, how I end up doing what I'm doing now, but that's just like, that's what happened to introduce me to this whole modality in and of itself.
Yeah, it was meant to be. I mean, from banking to doing this kind of job, yes, big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely understand when you start, working on something, you're like, this is not for me. I'm going to hate this. And luckily you find somebody, who can show you the way. That's lucky.
Yeah, I agree.
So how do you, because seriously, me personally, I don't know anything about that subject. So how would you explain hypnotherapy to someone who is really unfamiliar with it?
Well, the first thing I like to ask the person if they're familiar with such a thing as guided meditation.
All right.
Because the format of guided meditation is very much alike as the hypnotherapy session itself. The person closes their eyes, they being guided on a journey, and the idea, of course, is getting some kind of a therapeutic benefit out of it. Maybe a shift in their mindset, maybe they are going back in their memory lane to a memory of them feeling empowered and good, so they can feel better right this moment and like take that beautiful feeling and plug it into the current situation. And that's usually helps people to kind of like, okay, hypnotherapy is not that like crazy woo thing that everybody talking about. If you're telling me that it's very similar to guided meditation, I can kind of wrap my mind around what guided meditation is and start there. And then I say that there is still a difference, even though there's a lot of similarities. There's actually a book written on how similar hypnotherapy and guided meditations are by my mentor. Blew my mind when I read it. But there is a difference. A hypnotherapist, if they're trained and well, I would say in how to use language, they know so much more how to present ideas in a way that will be engaging for this particular person. And I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say I'm having a guided meditation hypnotherapy session with someone, and I want to guide them to a place of feeling calmer and more peaceful. And if I'm not really trained in knowing that some people are much more visual and much more responsive to visual language, I might, and this is the person in front of me, since I'm, let's say, more auditory, for example, I will start giving them all the words that I will be sharing with them will be in that category. So I would say something, and you can connect with the sounds of peace and happiness and joy, or you can go back and again connect with a melody. I will use a lot of auditory suggestions, but they will be like, huh, like what is that's not me. I can't. And the hypnotherapist who is aware of that is everybody's very different. They can tailor their language, and that's like the most basic difference that I can point out, the way that it will connect with that person more. But there is not that much of there's magic to it, but at the same time, there's just a lot of science behind how hypnotherapists train to communicate things in a way that evoke emotions, mindsets, beliefs more effectively than the rest of our folks that are not necessarily familiar with that science. I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, when you started talking about guided meditation, I'm like, okay, I can visualize a little bit, what you mean. And I'm sure there's a big science behind it after, of course. How long is like like when you do something for somebody, like
Session?
a session? Yeah, I'm sorry, I was looking for the word in French in my mind. I'm like, how do you say that in English? Yeah, a session. Is it can it be like an hour, or is it too long for you?
With me, it can be like an hour. It's actually on average for me, like the guided journey itself, the portion of it, not like without the checking in first conversationally and like debriefing after, like this portion, like the middle portion, it tend to be about like 45 minutes to an hour.
All right. Okay. I see.
So is there anything, any connection with like past lives, or do you even go there? Because since you're like looking at patterns, old patterns, and like those old contracts that we have, it made me think about past lives as well. So I wonder if like some people, if you actually can go there, or it's just so you stick with like what it's taught in the schools for, more like scientific approach.
It's a really good question. Personally, I have been sticking to more of a psychotherapy application, even though like what you said about old patterns and uncovering them, of course there can be like therapeutic value in it. I'm more of a school of mind that like saying that let's focus here and now and let's work with what you have now. And of course we can avoid talking about the past at times. I just can say that I take it all the way back to past lives, even though I'm a Buddhist, so I believe in reincarnation. I don't necessarily, first of all, feel I'm skilled in that. And secondly, I am very much aware of how people at times create memories that of something that never happened, just because the way they ask questions. There was a huge scandal in world of psychotherapy in the United States in 1970s and I think maybe early 80s, when there was a lot of awareness, which was great for the society, of childhood abuse. It was becoming a thing. People like, oh, yeah, like that was finally common knowledge. It was no longer hidden. But then a lot of psychotherapists decided suddenly that, okay, then all of the problems that my client has must be traced to the time when they were abused. They just don't remember it. And it could be the case for a number of people, that's for sure. But the problem was then is that the way they asked questions actually led people to believe into something that never happened before. And there were families, destroyed by that, court cases and etc. So I know how reconstructive human memory is, and sometimes we can create imagery of something that never happened before. And that's why I'm very careful, because I don't want to accidentally, if I create a beautiful memory that they love, this is amazing. Oh, my voice is going out. But if I create something, a monster that never happened, like, this is not great either. So this is why I'm not going into past life regression, even though I do believe in such a thing.
Got it. Yeah, just made me think about it because I never really like past lives, and just was curious about that. And we talk here a lot about subconscious mind, and Veronica and I, we've recorded several episodes about that and how powerful it is for the good and for the bad. And so, what role does it play in hypnotherapy? How important is it for the use?
It's extremely important, of course, as you probably already know. When you think about hypnotherapy, we think unconscious, subconscious, they go really well together. I mean, the whole idea of hypnotherapy is built around the fact that we have, and I like to call them more so processes than the mind, because the mind, when we think about unconscious mind and make it into an entity of some sorts, and it's not really a region in our brain anywhere. It's just like things and processes and thoughts we're not aware of. They're here all the time. They're like on the background running. So I like to think about unconscious processes. And this is where hypnotherapy and frankly therapy too, it's just therapists don't necessarily realize that this is the part of our psyche that they are communicating with, trying to help the change to happen from that level. So yeah, without going into any more detail, just to reinforce the fact that it's like central, of course, to the idea of hypnotherapy. There would be no hypnotherapy if there would not be a research and understanding on what those thoughts and memories and all the perceptions that are there, but we don't necessarily have access to them at all times. But they're there. They're there for us to utilize them.
So you're trying to reprogram it, the subconscious mind, and like working with it, like so that it can work on your favor, kind of a thing, or how does, you know what I mean? I don't know if it's making sense, but how do you work with it, with the subconscious mind, or do you like to make it work, to heal some trauma or?
For sure. I'm not a fan of the word programming myself, to be honest, even though it's been kind of used a lot in regards to therapy. And totally understandable why, we're imagining that we are repatterning, creating new patterns in our unconscious. and of course the programming word comes to mind because it's just how we think about it. But ultimately, your question is more so, okay, how do we work with unconscious mind such processes in a way that heals the person? And the example that comes to mind is one of my clients who came to me struggling with depression. And for her, the change was not in one session, but incremental, because all of those patterns of thinking and paying attention that she have built over the whole of her lifetime need a little more of a massaging than one session, even with hypnotherapy to do. But what we did is that I, in a hypnotherapy session, taught her basically how to, as simple as that, as pay attention differently, start paying attention to things that she does have, that she can do, that she's capable, that she's resilient, that she have done so many amazing things in the past. And it was done not just in this like back and forth conversational manner, because in this particular case, when you tell someone who is depressed, just you're amazing, like what's the matter, like why like why do you have to be like that, they will tell you a whole list of reasons why do they have to be like that. But when a hypnotherapy session, when that kind of taken away from them for the better in this particular case, she just had to sit there and take in and absorb all of those. What I did, I was bringing her back in her memory to all the moments in her life that she made through, she survived, she did the thing, she conquered, she overcame. And slowly but surely, her whole idea of herself changed. She became more attentive to all the things that she does well, all the things are going well in her life. And that not something that we consciously choose a lot of times. You see, this is more of a habit. And if we would give it a home, it would be somewhere in unconscious mind. So we can help the person to change their whole identity and the way they pay attention to support that identity, because those things are automatic. We don't walk around and think about them.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying. I always wanted to know how that is done. So very good.
So this is like a personal question because I never tried to get hypnotized, but do you think anybody can get hypnotized, or some people are resistant to it?
That's a good, interesting word. Okay, let me start with saying that there is a different degree to which each one of us can engage with such a experience. Just like all of us has different ability in terms of paying attention. Some people have one of my friends referred to herself. She was speaking about herself, a goldfish, like a attention span, not really much, but that's a funny one. But other people are like, okay, let me go for it. Let me fully immerse myself into it. And that's just in terms of focusing our attention. And in terms of hypnosis as well, there's different built-in capability of how responsive people would be. There is such an idea about they call them high and low hypnotizable subjects in science. And there is something to it, the way our brain built too. But I wouldn't say that it's okay if, let's say the person is having such and such brain, this is it, they are doomed forever, they can never have a deep hypnotic experience. No, that's not true. It's more of a skill as well. It's like a nature, there's something about the way our brain is that makes us more prone, more open to such experiences or having deeper ones. But at the same time, it can be trained like anything else. If we do it often enough, we can definitely increase our ability to get on with that intentional internal absorption and get benefit from it.
Okay. So So you think you will be able to hypnotize anybody?
I wouldn't say so. It's also a question then, what do you mean by hypnotizing? Like, there's a different ideas that people have,
Yes.
like what being hypnotized looks like. So if you tell me what you're referring to, I could answer to specifically that, or I can tell you what I think being hypnotized is, and I can answer to that.
Okay, so what I think you do, you have people with trauma and try to
Mm-hmm.
remember, what happened in their past. But I'm thinking also all those other hypnotizer, that sometimes you see on TV and and they're like, okay,
Ah,
you're a
chicken
chicken. You know what I
man.
mean? And people act like chicken, and I'm like, this is fake. They can, there's no way they can do that.
This is
So
fake.
of course, I'm taking, of course, the extreme. I know it's for sure, but that's why I'm asking. Sometimes, can anybody can just get hypnotized?
Right. And I kind of sense that that probably would be part of your answer, mentioning those chicken hypnosis show kind. It's we call it stage hypnosis. It's
Oh
it's an
yeah.
entertainment,
Hmm.
and in that particular case, actually, there's a beautiful chapter in a book that I'm thinking of that written on this subject about how those stage hypnosis shows they're not really there is a lot that goes on in that there is not hypnosis related. Let me put it like that. I can give you the whole item by item, how do they pick their subjects, how they condition them to be responsive, how they make sure that they don't pick those that they're not going to be responding to their suggestions, and how there's so much more social psychology to it than we understand as the audience, because the people who end up on that stage, they feel so much pressure, whether they realize it or not, to perform, to put on a show. They are in the center of that attention. And the funny thing, a lot of those shows are happening in like colleges and high schools. And in those places, peer approval is everything. You're like, this is, you're going to give everything for your people to love you. So for them to love you, you cannot disappoint them. You have to follow along with the commands of the stage hypnotist. And that's the best part, you can say, you can be as silly, as goofy as you want to be. And they say, oh, that was just hypnosis that did it to me. It's like the analogy that I have, like from my early 20s, like, oh, I was just drunk,
Yes.
like, and that's it. So, what happens in those instances, in those performances, is not so. No one's will is being bent against their desire to be there. Ultimately, they are on a stage because they wanted to, and they probably have some dramatic flair to them. They like to act. So there's no so much of like deep hypnosis that's happening in that case. It's more so the people playing into the show.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope it's somehow makes sense what I just said.
Yeah. Some
In
peer
regards to your
pressure
question.
to this. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Thanks. And so with your regular clients that you have a relationship with, so how do you measure, progress in their journey? How do you
And their
know? Okay,
journey.
okay, and then now they're okay. I don't need to work with them anymore. Or no, we're gonna need to do more work.
Well, first of all, I generally tend to ask them, if they feel like they could use more sessions, or they're, want to take a break, or just like good to go. Because my idea is ultimately to give them the tools to help themselves. So, first of all, I'm not there with them when they need those tools the most. I see them like for an hour, let's say a week, and then the rest of their life, they have to figure out how to support themselves. So I always, my goal is, I'm laughing at this, to put myself out of business just by teaching people the tools to support themselves. So first of all, is their own testimony? Are they feeling like, okay, you know what? I got what I needed. I'm going to apply it for some time and I will see what happens. And ultimately, it's also me listening for the changes that they have been implementing based on those tools, how they are doing in relation to their baseline, whatever was started. Are they really in a different place? Let's say, are they regulating their nervous system better than they started? And sometimes I feel like clients can benefit from more sessions, but I'm not the one who's gonna push it on them or decide for them. I just let them do their thing. And sometimes people want more sessions that I'm like, oh my God, you like, go do it. We're done here. So it really depends on the person.
Okay, that's good. And to be honest, and not push, more session on people. Yeah.
So you also can work with try to, how do you call it? Is it vice, right? When you are addicted, auto addiction, because vice,
Addiction.
we call that in Portuguese, vicio, but it has another meaning in English. Yeah. So you do you also work with that, with addiction, to like someone wants to quit smoking or sugar, things like that?
Yeah, I work only with smoking as my specialty because I'm an ex-smoker myself. However, I don't only apply hypnotherapy because this is not how I quit smoking, not by doing hypnosis alone. I was also practicing a very specific step-by-step way of disenchanting my brain, my very brain right here, with smoking as something that seems to be providing me momentarily relief, but ultimately it only took me to a place of feeling guilty, blaming myself, smelling terrible. And I feel like that's important part of the process of really taking our mind and having it sit with the consequences, because I was smoking menthol cigarettes to avoid tasting the taste. And to taste the taste,
Me too.
this is a part of the disillusionment, that we get. And it happens not in hypnotherapy. It happens, I can help the person to be more open to try it and experience for themselves, but it will happen for them when they will light that cigarette up, and instead of just like puffing away and being totally disconnected with everything they don't like about the smoking, they were like, oh. And that's how I quit. I'm like, I don't actually like it. That actually tastes terrible. What? And that's a moment of like liberation, so to say. In that moment, like, oh, I can do without it. It doesn't happen overnight, and I don't believe in hypnosis for smoking overnight. I actually had clients who came to me to quit smoking, and they said, like, one of my last clients, she said, like, I tried to quit smoking by doing hypnotherapy. I did a hypnotherapy session. I went out and I bought a pack of cigarettes. I'm like, this is exactly why I don't do it in one session only and hypnotherapy only.
Yeah, it's not a miracle thing, right? It's just one session. Yeah.
How did you quit, Sylvia? Did you quit cold turkey? We both are ex-smoker, by the way. So personally, I quit because I moved to San Francisco and I couldn't go up the hills anymore. I swear to God, that was my reason. I'm like, I can't even walk in that city. I'm done. I quit smoking. And I don't know about you, Sylvia. When did you quit smoking?
Well, it's when I started dating my now husband, who is not a smoker.
Yeah.
It was somehow easy, to stop. Thank God. It wasn't like, because I was more like smoking when I was going out, even though I was going out every day. Like, you say like I only drink socially, but like so it was that kind of a thing. But it wasn't that hard, thank God. But the alcohol together with the cigarettes, right? That combination is like makes it harder. So, but it's
not hard to quit, but you still think. I mean, I was dreaming about it like a year after. I was having dreams. When I was pregnant, like, oh my God, why am I smoking? I'm pregnant. I was pregnant. That was like 2 years after. I was still thinking about it.
Right.
So yeah, detox takes a while.
It does, yeah. So, do you have an example of how you treat something like anxiety, like how to treat it in someone? Could you tell us?
Mhm. Yeah, and in terms of the anxiety, I also use a combination of tools. Hypnotherapy is being one of them. So I guess let's stick with that because since that's the subject,
Yeah.
another whole different tangent is nervous system regulation, which is a different modality that I use. Not maybe for the next time, but in terms of hypnotherapy itself, hypnotherapy for anxiety, a lot of it for me centers around teaching the person how to be okay with uncertainty, because uncertainty of any kind, that's like the major trigger for anxiety. Let's say even for just something as simple as you are trying to get through to someone, they're not responding to you, you left like a voicemail, you texted them, and they're starting to kind of like getting a little anxious about what happened to them. Are they doing okay? Do they hate me now? Like, the whole like plethora of scenarios that run through our mind, and that's just because somebody did not pick up a call. That's that's it. Think about the future and the climate change and the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Our mind can like go into crazy places if we let it. So what I help people to do in hypnotherapy is to become comfortable with the idea of uncertainty. First of all, see it more as a potential of something good, not just necessarily something bad. They have so much certainty about the bad thing happens, but in reality, the probability of it happened, it's there, but we don't really know how probable it is. Our feeling on edge makes us believe all the worst case scenarios in our minds, so we stop paying attention to all the good. What if a good thing happens? Like who knows? So this is where hypnotherapy comes in. I help them to become comfortable with ambiguity of life, that things happens differently, and also help them to collect evidence of their own resiliency and self-efficacy, because anxiety only can overwhelm us if we think that what we are coming against, like something that's threatening, something that's uncomfortable, is stronger than we are. But if we believe in ourselves and if we believe in our resources, like even just a ability to calm ourselves down when we need to, we feel so much more stronger already. And that's also something I can help people in hypnotherapy.
So you can do sessions online as well. It doesn't need to be in person for like those
Yeah.
sessions. Yeah.
And this is how I have been doing it primarily because I started in the thick of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
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 Online for sure.
A lot of business flourish, some closed down and some flourish, during
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
And so we saw that you have some program that you offer. Can you tell us about the Catalyzer program? What is that?
Yay. Yes, Catalyzer. I came up with all of those fancy names on my progress. Catalyzer, harmonizer, integrator. Anyway, but Catalyzer is thank you for asking. It's minimum 3 sessions, and a lot of times it's maybe like 4 to 5, but the idea is that the first session we just get together, I get to know the person, their goals, their strength. I look for the evidence of what they're already doing well or worked for them before, where we can really hone in into what they already know and they can just utilize. And then we schedule the second one, they go home. I'll write the whole hypnotherapy journey. Now I don't do it in too much of a detail because I have done enough of it not to be like a perfectionist with every word, and also just allow my intuition flow. But before, I'm like, every word, take a breath, written down. It's all though, so it's purely tailored to them. It's not a technique. I don't use a hypnosis technique. I just use a hypnosis as a sort of a delivery system for my ideas and perspective and skills that I want to teach them. A lot of times it's just reminding them about how resourceful they are already and using what they told me and magnifying them, because they're ultimately an expert on themselves. I might be an expert at a number of things, but they're expert on what they can and cannot do. So the second session is that. It's more so just them closing their eyes, relaxing, having an experience. And then the third session, they come in, we debrief, and I teach them self-hypnosis, kind of like just the beginnings of it. And a lot of times then they go home, life takes over, they don't really practice, they practice only a little bit of self-hypnosis. So I have built in like a shorter 45-minute session, like 2 to 3 weeks out, after the last session, to check in, drop in, and see if they're really applying what they learn. And this is why it's called Catalyzer, because it's very like short, like in terms of the length. If you think about the traditional therapy is so much more longer than that, but it's about to get them unstuck. They've been dealing with something, and this is like in Russia would say a magical kick in the butt. So they just get propelled to a different level. And I just want to make sure they stay there. So I teach them self-hypnosis besides just doing the hypnotherapy session itself and giving them the recording to listen to it. Because again, I believe that the change actually happens. It does happen in our session, but also it happens from them repeating over and over again, coming back to their intentions, coming back to what they learn. And that's what self-hypnosis is for.
So is that again something I didn't know, that you could do your own hypnotizing session, so you can self-hypnotize yourself. Is it like
for
repeating
sure.
affirmation? Is it like meditation also, guiding meditation?
Affirmation that's a great example of that. Yeah. Also, I would just only add to that, there's many different ways to do affirmations, and sometimes people like do them for a little while. They're kind of feeling like they're getting mechanical with them. They just like, repeating the words, and it's not really landing anywhere. And that's probably not that effective. There's a different way of doing it, is when you really, let's say you have a certain goal, and then you go inside, like I like to say, just close your eyes, relax, take a few deep breaths, and then I have a list of questions that the person asks. They imagining a situation in the future where, let's say, a freaking miracle happened, and it just happened, like their goal have come true. How will they know what it's going to look like, how it's going to feel in their body, what other people going to notice about them, what it's already happening, what kind of a perspective on life they're going to, like, we're going to fill all the blanks until they feel it. Like, it's such an embodied experience. When I do it on myself, I'm like, I would, if I feel like 2 out of 10, and if I do this practice, I can't say that I'm going into 10 right away, but sometimes I'm like, this is it, I'm gonna conquer the world, like, to get to that feeling, it does take a little more than just like repeating affirmations, staring into the mirror. It takes more of that inside self-hypnosis work, but it does work.
Okay, that's a good tool for us, because we like affirmations here.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that, because it's true, after a while you can become mechanical. And I like the fact that right. And I like the fact that you give people tools they can use themselves, for themselves, after they're not doing session with you. That's really great. So my last question for you is, I saw that on your website you have hypnotherapy recordings. So would that be something they can use also? Is it like also hypnotizing session?
Yeah.
Would they use that?
Yeah, it's still kind of me hypnotizing them, because they're not taking them through the experience, but there is definitely something to it of course they're participating, they're listening. So as long as they are open to respond and by responding, I'm into some simple things like just try it on, like what it's like to allow your worry thoughts to float and just allow them, just like clouds, kind of dissipate. I don't really say that in those recordings, but if you're just willing to play with your imagination, yes, there is that self-hypnosis part comes in. So you can download them if you put your email address and your name, and then you're going to get a newsletter from me a couple times a month. I just send out saying people, hey, I exist. And here's a cool tip for you for anxiety. Try it on. And I also have a podcast. So I put my solo episodes in there just to, again, bring it to people's attention. And that's it.
So if people want to connect with you, what is the name of your podcast?
Thank you. Sorry, I took another sip. My last one. The name of my podcast is Peace Grows Here. Like peacefulness, peace grows here. It's a play on words. There's like a popular garden sign. I don't know if you have ever seen it. It says "Love grows here," and I'm a gardener. And the name of my hypnotherapy practice is My Blooming Heart Hypnotherapy and Coaching. So I just wanted to keep going with the garden metaphor. So peace grows here.
Okay, so we put all those information in the show notes. If people want to connect with you. Actually, I have another question. Sylvia, do you have maybe some more question for Yeliena?
No, I'm good. Covered everything for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, what's your favorite thing that you love in your job?
I love seeing other nervous systems happy. Oh. And I know it's not necessarily a hypnotherapy perspective now, but I just know what it's like when the nervous system of mine just sighs out and just feel grounded and lands finally in that feeling safe and feeling okay, even just for right now. Like it doesn't mean like life may get crazy. It probably will, but I am okay for right now, right here. I can handle it. Like seeing that moment in other people registering, that is definitely probably the most rewarding thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so nice.
Do you want to add anything, maybe something we didn't talk about?
I think I just would like to remind people to take care of themselves, their nervous systems, and also watch out for how they talk to themselves in their minds, because we don't really think about it that way, but we self-hypnotize ourselves all the time when we have this inner monologue going, and a lot of times we tend to repeat same things all over again. And the thing is, be very careful what you talk to yourself, not like censor it. That's not what I'm trying to say, but be very mindful, because you are listening, you are responding to your own suggestions. And anxiety is basically a negative self-hypnosis, because like, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? Okay, it's definitely going to happen. And sooner or later, you got yourself to the place of truly believing that the worst thing's going to happen. But let's rewind and let's just be mindful of how we talk to ourselves in our minds.
Yeah. Be gentle with yourselves, people.
Power of your words, the power of those spoken words. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, sure. We'll do an episode on that. Well, thank you very much for coming. There was really a lot of good information, very insightful. I don't know anything about hypnosis, so
yeah, like same here.
Yeah, especially about those affirmation. I really like that little explanation you gave us. We're gonna use it. Thank you very much, and yeah, guys, we see you later.
Thank you, Yeliena.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. Yeah, for me too. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for tuning in to High Vibes and a Mic. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and exploring. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.